Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today I want to do a little bit of a scissor comparison between two of the most highly respected brands in multi-tools. On the top we have a selection of Leatherman multi-tools, and on the bottom we have a selection of Victorinox multi-tools and multi-knives. So from left to right, starting at the top, we have the Leatherman Surge, then the Leatherman Juice S2, the Leatherman Squirt PS4, the Leatherman Charge Plus with G10 handle scales, the Leatherman Micra. On the bottom is the Swiss Tool CS, the Swiss Tool Spirit X, the Deluxe Tinker, the Money Clip, and the Rambler. Now, I will say that there's only really one pair of scissors in the Leatherman lineup that can really compete with the Victorinox scissors, and that's going to be the Leatherman Surge. The Leatherman Surge has outstanding scissors on it. Now, I'm not trying to say that the remaining Leathermans here have bad scissors. They're actually pretty decent scissors. But when you are comparing them direct across to Victorinox scissors, it is glaringly obvious which scissors perform better. So I've got a couple of different items that we're going to test on. First is going to be paper, and then cardboard, and then some paracord. And we're going to first see how each one does, and then I'm going to try to explain why Victorinox has such, they're just that much better. Why their scissors are that much better, and why they cut so incredibly smooth. Pretty much across all their brands, all their models, I mean. Let's get started. We're going to pull in paper first, and we'll just try to do this as quickly as we can. The first up is going to be the Leatherman Micro. So we'll check out, see how it performs on the paper. And if I can get my hands, it performs really, really well on paper, actually. And then I'm going to use a cardboard backing from a notepad here. We're not going to cut all the way through this, but we're going to go in about 3 or 4 inches here, and it really handles that cardboard really well. Now for paracord, and that's really where it comes down to finding out which of the scissors is best. And you can see the Micro struggled a little bit there, but it got through it and it made a pretty decent cut. Next is the Leatherman Charge Plus with G10 handle scales. Now these scissors are one of Leatherman's smallest scissors, but they're actually really, really good for paper. I like the control these offer. They're not the best scissors that Leatherman's going to have to offer for sure, though. You can see that they're going to struggle a little bit with cardboard just because they just don't have the same reach, the same length. And one of the things is the handle kind of gets in the way if you're trying to push through that more rigid material. Now, as far as on paracord, they do a pretty decent job most of the time. You can see it took a couple times to get through it, but they do make pretty good cut as well. Now the Squirt PS4. Now PS4 has pretty much the same issue. It's got really small scissors, but they perform really, really well on lighter stuff like this paper. And because they're so small and they're really close to them, it offers quite a bit of control. Now it's going to have the same issue going through cardboard because they are smaller, and the lever is not quite as long on these smaller scissors. It's really difficult, and I'm really struggling to get through that. So I'm going to stop right there. It's actually hurting just a little bit, and we'll see how they perform on paracord. They struggle a bit. They finally get through it, but you can see that the cut is not great by comparison to some of those others. Now for a very popular Leatherman, that's the Juice S2. Juice S2 has pretty decent scissors, and they're really long scissors, so they do really well getting through this lighter stuff, really with no issue, and they're actually pretty comfortable. Now we'll try it on the cardboard. They're a little tougher. They don't have the length also on that back handle, and because they don't really have a ledge here, they're not really that comfortable to use when you're going through that more rigid material. Now we'll see how they do on that paracord. Up at the middle of the jaw there, or up near the fulcrum, they don't seem to perform that well, but if you get them out towards the middle, they do a pretty decent job, and that's not a bad cut on those. Now we have the Leatherman Surge, and one thing about the Surge is it has a very long handle back here, so for your thumb operation it gives you a lot more leverage compared to some of these other multi-tools. You can see that the back of the handle is actually about twice as long as the cutting surface. So these are really, really comfortable to use, and they do an awesome job on just everything I've ever used them on. Paper is no issue. Going through this cardboard is going to be quite a bit easier than what some of these other multi-tools were. And that doesn't hurt at all. They just go right through it with zero issue. Now we get them on paracord, and you can see they do a fine job cutting through. And this is why I say that the Surge scissors are pretty much the only one that can compete with the Victorinox. Now let's go through some of those Victorinox scissors. Now, on most Victorinox scissors, they're going to have this lightweight spring here, and it's not, I mean, it's replaceable, so you can always change it out. I have never really cared for the little lightweight spring, though. I wish they would beef that up just a bit more. First one is the Rambler, and these scissors, I can tell you, you can tell a difference. Now, they don't have a very long jaw, but they are really, really sharp, and every time you hit it, you can definitely tell the difference when you are cutting with these as opposed to some of those other scissors. Now, these are very sharp, but they're going to have similar problem to what the Squirt PS4 and the Wave had, because it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio here, and so you don't have the extra leverage, and you're kind of get your thumb right up in the that more rigid cardboard kind of hinders your ability to get through with these little scissors. Now, here's where we're going to start seeing some real key differences. All the Victorinox scissors are extremely sharp. Now, let me try that one more time, because it didn't get through it on the first time, but that's because the scissors are a little smaller. Let's see if I can jam it up in there a little bit. It got through it a much, much better that time, but these are exceptionally sharp. Let's move on to the next one. Next one is the money clip, and this is actually one of my personal favorites for Victorinox. I like the money clip and the Ambassador both. These are very, very good scissors and great for light duty. And just like with the Rambler, you can tell how much sharper these are than some of the competition. Has a little bit longer of a handle, so it's a little easier to get through that cardboard, but it still has a pretty short jaw up here, so it's not quite, it'll get through it okay, especially if you're only doing it once in a while, but the larger scissors are definitely going to outperform it because of that reason, because these are just in and of themselves smaller scissors. We'll get it on some paracord, and they do a fantastic job getting through that paracord. Now, next up is the Swiss Tool Spirit X. Now, the Spirit X is going to be one of the smaller scissors that Victorinox has, and it's one of the very few that uses a lever mechanism as opposed to that spring. But they do have good spring back. The problem is they have pretty small jaws. Now, you'll notice that the handle is very long by comparison to the cutting surface there, so they have a lot of leverage. Now, they do fantastic going through this paper. They're a little tough to maneuver. I'm having a little bit of difficulty. Let me try to rearrange here. So they get through all the, I mean, they're extremely sharp. They're really sharp, but they're a little small on the cutting edge there, so they're a little bit difficult to maneuver. Going through this cardboard, because they have more leverage, it's easy to cut through them, but the design of these, because the cutting surface and the remainder of the handle are not in line with one another, that cardboard tends to hit along that edge, and that's the only thing that makes it difficult to get through it. Now we'll pull out the paracord, and these do really good job on paracord. You can see just how smoothly that went through. Now, these last two Victorinox scissors are the ones that are going to really perform well. This is the Super Tinker, and you'll notice that it has a very long jaw, and it has a nice set of scissors on it, and it's not quite 1-to-1. It's about 1 1/4 to 1 ratio here, so it has decent leverage, and these are really, really smooth going through there. So paper, non-issue. Cardboard is going to be pretty much the same. These actually are some of the best cutting Victorinox scissors out there. You can see I'm having really no effort pushing those through there. Now, when we get it on paracord, these are fantastic scissors. Man, that was probably the smoothest cut of all of them so far, with the exception of the Surge. It's very, very, very close between those two. And finally, we have the Swiss Tool CS. Now, these are going to be pretty much the same size as what was on the Super Tinker, pretty much the same overall size and design. So these are going to perform pretty much the same way. I do like these a little better though. These cut a little smoother for me because I'm able to utilize the full handle of the Swiss tool back here, and so I have more control over it, and I really like these scissors a lot. Cardboard is going to be pretty much the same thing. Going to go straight through it just like the Super Tinker did without any effort. And you can see this was the Surge, these were the two Victorinox, and I could easily have kept cutting through that with no issue. And now we get it on paracord, and it just zips right through it. Now you'll notice when I've been cutting all the paracord that I have been kind of stretching it out here. But Victorinox scissors are so good that you can do it loose. Now it kind of slipped out. If you let gravity kind of help you, we'll try it like this. Well, it kind of pushed it out a little bit more. But now let's go back to the Surge and see if the Surge can do that, just having the paracord free out there. And it does. It performs pretty much on par with what we got out of the Victorinox scissors. But we'll try that on something like the Juice S2 now. And you can see not even close to the same performance that we get out of those Victorinox scissors. Let me try one more, the Micra, and see how it will perform. You can see the Micro kind of doubles over. Now it still cuts through it. It's best if you give those, and I've ran out of paracord now, but it's best if you give your paracord just a little bit of tension, and then all these scissors will get through the paracord with pretty much zero effort. But there's a big difference between those and between the Leathermans and the Victorinox, with the exception of the Leatherman Surge. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why the Victorinox scissors are so good. Now there's three main reasons why Victorinox scissors cut so incredibly well, and I'm going to try to highlight those. The first of which is the pin tension on all of their scissors across the board is set extremely tight tolerances, so you don't get that they don't have a tendency to roll once they encounter stuff like paracord. And I can actually take this small piece of paracord and cut right through it, and without any tension on it, and it has no flex to the side. That's the first thing, because that tension on that pin is set incredibly good. The next thing is their grind profile. So they go real shallow in their grind here, and then on the cutting grind they bring it over just a little bit more. And what that allows it to do is that you don't have a large edge out here, so whatever you're cutting through gets cut, and it can bypass the scissors very easily, as opposed to some of those thicker scissors where it kind of bumps into it and the material does not want to slice through. That's the next thing that makes Victorinox scissors so good. Now, both of those points are pretty much the same on the Surge scissors. The Surge has a very good tension here on the pin, and it uses a little larger pin than some of these other scissors from Leatherman. The grind profile on it is not quite as shallow as what you're going to get on the Victorinox, but the cut grind profile is a little bit shallower, and so I'm not sure if that's what aids the Surge from being able to cut or perform as well as the Victorinox scissors do. But there is one final thing with the Victorinox scissors, and this is part of the reason why all of their scissors cut so well from the bottom of the line all the way to the top of the line. I'm going to try to highlight this, and I don't have a straight edge, so I'm going to use that portion of that cardboard, the outer side here, the factory edge, to kind of show you this. Every one of Victorinox scissors has a curve to it. So if we set that, you can see, I'm trying to get, there we go. So if I set that against the cut edge, you can see just how much curve there is to those scissors. And the Surge does not have that. If I put that up against the Surge on its cut edge, you'll see that it is just straight across. We can get that to set there. There we go. So that is another factor on why the Victorinox scissors cut so well. And it's a little more difficult to see that curve in the smaller scissors of Victorinox because they're a little bit shallower, but they do curve back. And so that, I don't know how that helps them, but it certainly does, because even these smaller scissors will just, without any effort, without any tension on that little piece of paracord, will go right through it. Let me see if I try that with the Surge. I don't have much paracord left here, but without any tension on it, and the Surge performs pretty much just the same. And that's why I say that of all of the Leatherman scissors, the only one that can really truly hold a candle when you're comparing it to Victorinox scissors is going to be the Leatherman Surge. Now, that's not to say that the scissors on other Leathermans are not good. They're all pretty decent. So Leatherman really does their scissors pretty well. It's the same kind of argument against the saws. Victorinox makes great saws. Leatherman makes great saws. I actually think in the scissor department that Victorinox has the advantage, and I think that in the saw department that Leatherman holds a little bit of an advantage on their saw design. That's not to say that Victorinox saws are bad. It's just saying that Leatherman's just a touch better. Now, when it comes to scissors, I think the gap is a little wider because their scissors are consistent down the line, as opposed to, just one or two multi-tools. All their scissors are excellent. And if you want an EDC pair of scissors, I strongly recommend some of the Victorinox scissors, any one that you're really comfortable with. And the one I really like are the Ambassador and the Money Clip. They really do work well for me. They're a little bit small. I wish these were I wish they had a design that was, and in fact, I need to look. There probably is a larger an ALOX version of a larger tool that's going to have a knife blade and a pair of scissors that's going to work fine for me, and I really need to investigate it a little bit more to see if maybe I can get just a little bit larger pair of scissors. Well, this has been a little closer look at why Victorinox scissors cut so well. They are really just the best out there, except for my personal favorite, the Leatherman Surge. My name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.